After Turner's brief solo career started and ended with the soundtrack for the film Submarine, the boys were back at it with Suck It and See, a departure from the darker sounds of Humbug and going quite the opposite direction, forming the album in a more pop-oriented way with an instant vintage sound, providing an easier listening experience for all. Suck It and See became an outlet for the band to be genuine, sincere and take the piss for a change, allowing their fourth studio album to be the most liberated and funny we've ever seen Alex and the Monkeys yet. Excitement and creative reinvention drives the album forward, as despite the band's divisiveness, they still showed the world that they have something to prove. Yet, it was still fueled by the camaraderie that was the catalyst for the album in the first place. The new, fun and funny sounds of the ever-changing Arctic Monkeys. She's Thunderstorms captures the thrilling feeling of experiencing love in all its complicated glory. Swirling verses give a sensitive and endearingly sincere opener to the record, a shot of Love Heart's flavoured charm with a skyward soaring pop track.
Sounds as if she's pretty close. When the heat starts growing hot, she's thunderstorm.
Black Treacle continues in similar vein to She's Thunderstorms, an adventure through an idyllic western setting using juxtapositions to make sense of a vast and open outback.
Now it's getting dark and the sky looks sticky, more like black treacle than tar.
Brick by Brick is one of the most straightforward rockers on the album, with a driving riff and a shouted chorus. However, there are some more interesting production choices here, giving the song a more raw, immediate feel. Hellcat is a standout on the album with its jaunty rhythm and sparkling melody, showing a new sophistication to the band's songwriting with more poetic and introspective lyrics in their earlier work, as well as different vocal harmonies and instrumental textures.
Just when things are getting complicated in the eye of the storm, she flicks a red hot revelation off the tip of her tongue.
Don't Sit Down 'Cause I Moved Your Chair is one of the most sonically adventurous on the album, with its jagged guitar riffs and moody synths. It's a sign that the band is willing to take more risks with their sound, and that they're interested in exploring new sonic territory.
Find a well-known outman and start a fight. Wear your shell suit on bonfire night.
Library Pictures and All My Own Stunts are propulsive, high-energy rock songs that feature some of the most intricate and layered guitar work on the album. A reminder that despite the band's growing interest in more textured, atmospheric arrangements, they're still capable of delivering hard-hitting, riff-heavy rock. Reckless Serenade is one of the most immediately catchy songs on the album, with its sing-along chorus and jangly guitar riff. A melancholic undercurrent to the song's lyrics speaks again to the band's growing interest in more introspective songwriting.
I've been trying to figure out exactly what it is I need. Called up to listen to the voice of reason and got the answering machine.
Pile Driver Waltz and Love is a Laser Quest are slow-burning ballads that showcase the band's growing interest in more delicate, textured arrangements. The song's instrumentation is sparse and understated, allowing Turner's vocals to take centre stage.
I etched the face of a stopwatch on the back of a raindrop. And do you still think love is a laser quest? Or do you take it all more seriously?
The album's title track is a mid-tempo ballad that showcases the band's growing interest in more delicate, emotionally nuanced songwriting. The song's instrumentation is stripped down and intimate, with acoustic guitars and subtle backing vocals that create a warm, inviting atmosphere. The album closes with That's Where You're Wrong, featuring some of the most beautiful and emotionally resonant sounds on the album. The band's instrumentation is sophisticated, with delicate guitar arpeggios and atmospheric synths creating a haunting, atmospheric backdrop for Turner's vocals.
She looks as if she's blowing a kiss at me, and suddenly the sky is a scissor, sitting on the floor with a tambourine, crushing up a bundle of love. Don't take it so personally, you're not the only one.
As the boys toured all over the world with Suck It and See, they soon realised how middle of the road all of the songs are. The record couldn't quite decide if it wanted the strange sounds of Humbug or the pop rock that would make their next album skyrocket. If it wasn't for Turner's great lyricism, Suck It and See would be a hard one to remember. Turner shares his concerns for playing the album live.
Whilst I think the last record has its merits, it felt like once we started playing it live, it kind of exhausted itself pretty quickly. And that's why we wrote Are You Mine?
Formed out of the blueprint of the perfect crowd pleaser song, AM was the fifth Arctic Monkeys studio album. The idea was to apply the tricks and musical perspectives of hip-hop and R&B producers to a rock and roll band and see where it would take them. They wanted this new album to be the new music to drive to, in the same way that Ice Cube or 50 Cent would. The trick that these hip-hop icons got correct was the focus on lower frequencies in their songs, beginning recording with primarily drum and bass before anything else, something that the Monkees used while making AM. Synths, organs and pianos are much more prominent than ever. Are You Mine is a straight up rock banger with its heavy guitar riffs and catchy chorus, much rawer in its sound, drawing from previous records and showing its clear inspiration from 70s rock, following on from the slow and moody Do I Wanna Know, a perfect introduction to the band's new sound. One for the Road is a slow and sultry number with a bluesy guitar riff and Turner's crooning vocals. The lyrics are darker and personal, exploring themes of loneliness and heartbreak. Arabella is a standout on AM with its funky guitar riff and driving beat. Turner's lyrics are full of swagger and attitude, and the chorus is incredibly catchy, featuring killer guitar very clearly influenced by Black Sabbath.
My days end best when the sunset gets itself in the fields of bodies burning.
I Want It All does not hide dancing influence, with subtle guitar layers, a catchy bridge to get your feet tapping, and lyrics about chasing dreams and living life to the fullest. Number One Party Anthem and Mad Sounds are ballads that act as a departure from the rest of the album. A bit of John Lennon-esque vocal charm emphasises how Turner has become much less explicitly Yorkshire.
Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Number one party anthem. Mad sounds in your ears. They make you get up and dance. They make you get up all night.
Fireside is a more upbeat track with a guitar riff that nods back to Suck It and See. Turner's silky vocals sing of a tumultuous relationship and the desire to make things right.
I can't explain, but I wanna try. Or is this image of you and I?
Why'd You Only Call Me When You're High, Snap Out of It, and Knee Socks bring out the most in the band's new recording techniques, returning to the pop-oriented production, pushing out precisely layered choruses, followed by a verse held down with drum and bass to form a feel-good groove.
Now it's 3 in the morning, and I'm trying to change your mind. I wanna grab the shoulders and shake, baby, snap out of it. When the zero's standing on the 24-hour clock, when you know who's calling, even though the number is blocked.
I Wanna Be Yours is the final song on the album, taking lyrics from a John Cooper Clarke poem to round off the record, once again leaving fans wondering where they could possibly go next. AM showed the world truly who the Arctic Monkeys were, possessing enough great singles to make it the biggest record the Arctic Monkeys have ever produced. But with great success comes great divides, and much of their fan base described the album as dry, generic, and overrated. But of course, that didn't stop them for long. After the AM tour, the revival of the Last Shadow Puppets was here with Everything You've Come to Expect, a development of their debut album, this time using much more organs for a glam rock style sound.
Aviation in the evening, I could feel it coming on. Mama told me you should stop, you mean to go wrong.
This, just the same as their debut, was pivotal in the direction of the Monkeys' next record. A make or break situation. When you've been running one of the biggest rock and roll groups in the world for the last 12 years, there comes a point in which ideas don't come nearly as easy as they did back in the day. Alex Turner couldn't seem to write anything on guitar anymore, stating it simply sounded redundant. On a Steinway Vertigrand, however, the mind was freed and the piano became Turner's new writing tool.
I didn't have any ideas for this album before I sat down at the piano. It's not something I've ever written on in the past, really. Looking back now, I love playing guitar, obviously. I played it, like loads of it, on this record. But as a writing tool, I think I'd sort of reached a point with it where it wasn't getting me anywhere.
The Arctic Monkeys have evolved well, but their new record was an evolution of mind too. Alex's interest in sci-fi reflected the themes of his songwriting, and eventually created a place that would critique the real world, the fictional retreat on the moon, Tranquility Base, Hotel and Casino. This album is bold, intelligent and incredibly refreshing, a great example of an evolution almost no one saw coming. Alex's writing space, dubbed the lunar surface, left him alone with a piano and his thoughts, letting his mind escape to the moon and back, just like Apollo 11 did in 1969 on their landing site of Tranquility Base. He would form a fictional jazz lounge retreat on the moon, where people could look upon the dystopia the world below them had become, and the album documents the thoughts and feelings of the lounge singer.
Where I ponder all the questions, but just manage to miss the mark.
If one knows the Arctic Monkeys, then their fascination with film and TV from the 60s is no surprise, with Turner taking inspiration from Federico Fellini's 8½, a film about making films, to write a song about making songs for the record's opener, Star Treatment. The The contrast between what we hate ruining us and what we love ruining us prevails. The concealment of truth versus the irrelevance of information.
Everybody's on a barge floating down the endless stream of great TV. 1984, 2019.
As Turner gazes down at planet Earth from outer space, there are points in which information is thrown in where if you blink, you've missed it. 1984 and 2019 can be glossed over as simply dates, but in fact relate to George Orwell's 1984, a book that Alex took his dystopian influences from, and the original Blade Runner, set in the year 2019, a film that reflects on the effects of new tech on civilization as a whole.
What do you mean you've never seen Blade Runner?
Turner critiques the relationship we share with social media, exposing to us the virtual personas we all seem to create when we're online, and also how we've normalised sharing every single experience to the internet for all to see.
Finally I can share with you through cloudy skies every whimsical thought that enters my mind. Dance as if somebody's watching, 'cause they are.
This act of constant publication has led to many of us losing authentic emotional experiences. Turner comments on this through the metaphor of prescribed love.
Love came in a bottle with a twist of cap. Let's all have a swig and do a hot lap. The rise of the machine
Tells us that our obsession and dedication to our devices highlights the ease of access to technology, feeding us with either irrelevant or overwhelming information, and in some cases dumbing us down. Alex calls this the information-action ratio. And although he tried his best to avoid it, he couldn't help but succumb to it.
Have I told you all about the time that I got sucked into a hole through a handheld device?
All of these weird but wonderful statements came from the writer's block that Turner was experiencing at the time. Although these statements may seem like a mess of words, Turner looked upon artists like Leonard Cohen, who would purposefully obscure his lyrics to make them seem more poetic.
So I tried to write a song to make you blue, but I've a feeling that the whole thing may well just end up too clever for its own good.
But taking refuge on Tranquility Base let him forget about his worries for a while.
Take it easy for a little while. Come and stay with us. It's such an easy flight.
Drummer Matt Helders eventually joined the writing process, unsure of whether to involve Jamie Cook and Nick O'Malley to form a new Monkees album, or just to let Alex release Tranquility Base as a solo album. Eventually, they decided against that option, and although Jamie and Nick was slightly shocked at the change in direction at first, they were still eager to help Turner with his ideas. It's noticeable that the band members were repurposed for the record, with Alex's frontman presence stronger than ever, Matt's drumming becoming more restrained and underutilised, although not forgotten about entirely. Jamie recorded guitar simply to complement Turner's piano with some added solos. And Nick's bass lines seem to actually be more prominent than in previous records, punching through the mix. Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino is quite an unusual album, covering authenticity, technology, and alienation, and it's certainly not for everyone. As I listened to it for the first time back in 2020, being a fan of their earlier albums, I was confused by the change. But the record warrants multiple listens, and re-listening to the album in 2023 to make this video was yet another eye-opener for me, and many others like me. It divided an entire fan base and went underappreciated for years, but it was definitely the most influential move in the musical and stylistic transitions of the Arctic Monkeys.
The way some science fiction does.
going into the future, we're seeing the band embrace the new style that they've cultivated, with their latest album, The Car, at the forefront of this. The piano-driven glam rock lounge pop has become much brighter and feels full of sonic advancement thanks to the inclusion of beautifully arranged strings.
So do you wanna walk me to the car? I'm sure to have a heavy heart.
Film and TV are still some of Turner's biggest inspirations and has led the Monkees to produce some of the most cinematic music we've ever heard from them. In saying that, Sculptures of Anything Goes sounds like a nod back to Humbug with its dark, unsettling sound. And yet still sounds nothing like we've heard the band on previous records. Where will the Arctic Monkeys go next? Well, at this point in their musical journey, it's hard to predict. Some people wish that all of their albums sounded like Favourite Worst Nightmare, and others think that AM was just a corporate cash-out. Maybe one day people will yearn for the dulcet sounds of Tranquility Base to return. It's anyone's guess. But one thing's for sure, whatever avenue the band might take, they will never stop evolving.